everybody, welcome back to another H.E.L.M.to Tower video. I am Auri O'Neill. It is lovely to see you again. It's been a little bit since I've done one of these. Last time I did it was actually, like, before I had written my review for Lightfall, so I apologize for the delay in these. If you're not familiar, I'm writing a piece about Destiny 2 over on irrationalpassions.com, our home, every month, or I'm kind of aiming for that. I took some time off in the middle because I was transitioning in public to lady form me, I guess. So, you know, if you're not familiar with that, I actually talk about it in the piece that this is linked with, and I have a written piece on irrationalpassions.com. Really, you know, I'm a trans person. I exist. I hate to break it to you. If you've been listening to H.E.L.M.to Tower, which has still been going with me and Mike Burgess, you kind of get it. So, you know, beside the point. Today, I want to talk about the final shape and everything that we saw. This is going to be going up the same day as a nice big podcast of H.E.L.M.to Tower, which you should also go check out. It's on the same YouTube channel. It's on your favorite podcast service. It's out there. You know, go listen to it. We had Cam Konek on, who's a lovely friend who also loves Destiny, who's been on the show before. We talked about the reveal. We talked about, you know, Radiance, axes, teleport knives, the things that people care about from the final shape reveal. But I wanted to talk about episodes and kind of get more in depth into that. I thought about maybe, hey, let's sit down and talk about Season of the Witch. Because I'm not really going to talk about that in the written piece. The written piece is more of a recap and kind of how I'm feeling going into the final shape, which is good. I would say, you know, if you are watching this and are a big part of the Destiny community, you know things have not been good. At the very least, they've not felt good to participate in and be a part of, and that's a real bummer. You know, the state of the game came out. Mike and I talked about that on the podcast as well. I didn't think it was a good piece. I didn't think it was representative of how Destiny was actually doing, which would be struggling. And the piece was more of like reiterating things. But, you know, if you are part of the Destiny conversation still, then you know all of this. So the feeling in the final shape showcase was like hesitant excitement. I think that's generally where everybody's at. You know, they can't say too much because you don't want to spoil what's going on in the finale, but you do want to set the stage, and the stage has been set. You know, it's a big campaign. When you're in the campaign, it is mission, mission, mission. There's no BS, there's no filler, there's nothing extra between it. We're going to get Ikora, we're going to get Cade, we're going to get Zavala, voiced by, gosh, my brain just destroyed itself trying to think. Keith David. We got there. Trying to remember one name, I tell you, is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And that's they said that Keith David will be Zavala in the final shape specifically, so I'm expecting that's going to be when we start hearing him. So we get our kind of core three, and we hopefully get the finale or proper closure to their stories. And my assumption going into the final shape is this is where we learn the story of the Traveler, right? And I think knowing that we're going through this linear world, I think that's a great way to, if the campaign is more of a story-focused thing, to kind of introduce the journey that the Traveler has been on, perhaps like going from where we are now backward to where the Traveler started, and obviously the Witnesses, like Citadel and whatever finale that is. And I'm very excited for the raid. I think anytime Bungie is very confident about the raid, you know, I'm thinking of Last Wish in particular, right? They knew that raid was going to be something incredible, and it is still to this day. And, you know, the music alone, like, what more do I need to be excited about than just that for a new raid? So, but I do want to talk about, and I've got this little thing here. I've got the episodes kind of pulled up. So I wanted to talk about these, and we have this is all we know, you know, in front of us. This JPEG of what's going on, because I think they give us a lot of information here that's interesting to think about. That sets the stage for how episodes are going to be different, and we don't know a lot right now. Obviously, we know that this is happening. We don't know that there will be another expansion after these at all, but, presumably there will be something in the future. Maybe not next year, or excuse me, 2025, the year after. But, that's okay. Like, we can wait. I think if we took a year off from a Destiny expansion, that would be fine. I think you would want to incorporate some of those big expansion level like updates into episodes, and the cadence they've laid out here allows for that. But I'm talking about stuff like new aspects for your subclasses or new supers like they're doing for the final shape itself. Things like that. I think there's plenty of room for that in episodes, but of course we don't actually know how that's going to work. But let's like go over the 3 episodes here, right? We have Echoes, Revenant, and Heresy. And they lay out here that each episode is going to have a new exotic mission and a new exotic weapon. I don't know if that's like, hey, it's an exotic mission with an exotic weapon, and they've set this precedent with Excalibur and Revision Zero, where those will be repeatable and craftable, and part of the repetition is going to be getting an upgraded version of the Catalyst that let you slot both unique traits and common traits into this exotic. I think that's my expectation for what this is going to be. Probably stuff more along the lines of Avalon versus the Wicked Implement exotic mission from Season of the Deep, but that's me just assuming. I think the reason I'm thinking that is because of the exotic mission rotator that we just got, how like clean that is, right? How well that just works. Because, think about it similarly to the battlegrounds and strikes, and how like after the seasons are gone or the episodes are gone, you can just roll those into a playlist, and that way they can stick around. They don't necessarily live in the same context that they did when the episode or season was happening, but at least you can still play it, you can still get the catalyst, you can still get the craft, etc., etc. So when it says new exotic weapon and mission, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Could have said new craftable exotic weapon, but I don't know. Who knows? And that could also just mean, the season pass or whatever. I actually don't know what they're going to... Episode pass, maybe is what they're going to call it. Maybe they'll just call it a battle pass now. But we don't know if that's like that, what they're talking about, or if they're actually talking about the mission-based exotic. But here we see, so every 6 weeks, we're going to get new quests, new story, new activities, new weapons, artifact mods, pass ranks, and pass rewards. And then every episode will have its own armor set, which I think it was very funny timing that like this whole very angry, somewhat justifiable, maybe not as justifiable as the anger that was actually out there, but this big armor conversation happened. And then we get this, and it's like, yeah, and it's just one piece of armor for each episode. But they talked about stuff in the like Q&A about how the mask, the cat mask, the tiger mask, whatever, the mask at the end that you can get from like grinding out Dares of Eternity a whole bunch is this ornament available to Titans, Warlocks, and Hunters. So they talked about having something like that at like the rank 200 of the episode pass, battle pass, whatever it's going to be called, or somewhere in there, as like this is your top off to the episode. I'm curious what those could be. Like is Echoes, which appears to be some kind of Vex season. Maybe it's like a Vex helmet or a Vex frame thing. Maybe they're not all helmets. Maybe they're sometimes like gloves or things like that. I think that would be more interesting too. But generally, they talked about a little bit of how this is going to work, right? The 2 key things here, right? Artifact mods each 6 weeks. So when we get into Act 2 of episode Echoes, there will be 5 more artifact mod slots, and I assume you'll be able to unlock more as well. You won't have to like disassemble the 12 that you've already selected. Maybe you'll get 2 more choices, but it's a whole nother row. So I'm thinking like potentially another champion base mod, which is interesting, right? Like we could be having 7 base champion mods every season, which could mean we have like every possible anti-champion anything every season, or excuse me, episode. But they said, yeah, they're adding a row on the top after Act 2 begins, and a row on the bottom after Act 3 begins. So we're going from 25 to maybe 10 more, 35, which is a lot. That's a lot of artifact mods. And we know how much those can really, really shift the meta of a given episode or season. And that's exciting that at these stopgaps throughout the episode, we'll get more ways to shift the meta around. Like, we could get a row in the artifact mod that totally defines an entire episode, and maybe it's just for the last 6 weeks. But that's exciting, you know, like I think about seasons and how, like, sometimes nowadays I'm not always on the day-to-day grind, and I just want to wait to the end to get everything unlocked, like do the season pass and all that. I did that for Season of the Deep. There's a lot of video games were happening. I had to play Zelda, you know. But it makes the idea that, like, okay, that bottom row that they're going to add when Act 3 starts is going to have some buck wild mods, and it's going to make going back and cleaning up everything that you needed to clean up way easier. But they also said they're adding 50 battle pass levels every act, and that's a lot. 200 at the end of everything is a lot. I have definitely reached rank 200 frequently, and I assume with this, you know, the one thing that's not listed on here is, like, more seasonal challenges, which is where you get, like, huge EXP drops and stuff like that, which makes leveling much easier. Not listed here. So I hope, you know, if they're going to be longer, I'm going to assume that we're going to get more seasonal challenges. But I also hope the cadence on those changes. It seems like they're toying around with that, right? It's usually the first 2 weeks of every season is 10 challenges, and they're pretty, you know, you've seen these ones before. Kill Taken in Gambit, get Crucible kills in Rift or whatever. Stuff that none of us want to do sometimes. And, you know, you get the same endgame ones of, like, complete a GM, complete a Master Lost Sector, complete, you know, 20 wins of Trials of Osiris or whatever, 20 round wins, complete competitive rounds. And those kind of always come in later in the season. This season, Season of the Witch, which I want to talk about, but, you know, we probably just don't have time. They only have, like, 7 seasonal challenges right out the gate in week 1, as opposed to 10. It's always started with at least 10, and they're a little bit more grindy than normal. So I'm wondering if they're going to try and shift the 10 challenges a week toward the latter half of the season. But in my mind, with episodes, you know, at the beginning of Act 1, you get a week that's 10 challenges, and then maybe it tapers off. Beginning of Act 2, back to 10 challenges, so that way you have a lot to do, a lot of XP to earn for additional ranks that are available in the season pass, and kind of rinse and repeat every act. That's my hope, you know. The big things here are, like, new story and new quests, right? I don't know why these are separate. I'm guessing new story because they do show it here as, like, a lore book. It could be, like, additional lore books, or, you know, the lore book could be split into acts itself. I wonder if it's like, okay, Act 1 is done. Here's 3 story missions. You can play them all right away if you want. And then you're going to get 3 more when Act 2 comes out. And then, you know, maybe the finale or 3 more again when Act 3 comes out. I don't know, you know, what format necessarily they're going to go with. And I'm sure they might still be figuring that out. So obviously this is just speculation, but I would be curious for folks watching if you have any ideas. Like, would you prefer, you know, just give me, like, 3 story missions up until, like, the first act climax right away, first week? Or would you still want them to do maybe, like, the first 3 weeks of an act are story-based, and then the back 3 weeks of the act are, like, challenge-based and XP grind-based, or exotic mission-based or something? Another thing I was thinking about with the exotic missions is, like, you know, I think about Revision 0, which was this time-gated thing where we could get the gun the first time we did it, and then, like, it was weeks and weeks of, like, building up to the catalyst and legendary version unlocked and a long thing. Like, is it like we're going to get the exotic mission in Act 1, and then the exotic mission will be updated so we can get the catalyst in Act 2? Basically more time gating of things. I don't know how I feel about that. I'm sure there's a lot of Destiny players that also don't know how they feel about that. We'll see. I'm just putting ideas out there because I've been thinking about this a lot. Of like what this could mean for the pace of live service with Destiny. Because right now it's like 7 weeks up front, you got a story mission every week, and an exotic quest will probably drop along the way, and then it's over. And then you're just kind of on the grind until you have to get to the new season or whatever. What's interesting here is like new activities every six weeks. Similarly, is this going to be like, okay, we get a battlegrounds, one battlegrounds in Act 1, and then we have to wait 6 weeks to get the second one, or are they going to be more substantial? Are they going to be new activities? Could that mean like updates to old strikes like they said they wanted to do? Maybe we'll get those kind of more spruced throughout the season, or like Crucible maps, and looking at these 9 acts in front of us, like when does this Crucible map pack drop? I have no idea, but somewhere in there, and it could potentially not necessarily be at the beginning of a season. It could be right in the middle of it. I don't know. That's exciting to me. I think that's more interesting than, again, the front-loaded 7 weeks, and then it's just kind of the grind until we get to something new again. New weapons, pass rewards. I think new weapons is what I want to focus on here, right? What does that mean? Are we still getting 6 weapons an episode, and are we just like getting 2 in the first act, 2 in the second, 2 in the third? What does that mean for crafting? Are these going to be easy to get patterns on? Is it more than just like a seasonal set of weapons, right? Like, is there like kind of different theming to Act 1, 2, and 3 that would result in different sets of weapons with different origin traits and things like that? That's like one of the more interesting takeaways I have from this, right? Because we see the symbols here, quest, story, activities, everything but armor is repeated in each act. So presumably that means more guns are going to show up in an episode in later acts, which is exciting. But it comes back to that time gated conversation of like, okay, well, the best auto rifle isn't going to be until Act 3 of Heresy. So do I even want to just grind and all this until I can get that and craft that, and then I can level it up? Luckily, leveling crafted weapons has now become kind of irrelevant. As long as you play the game, you'll have the resources to do it, which is really so nice. Maybe I should just do a video of this just on all of the nice things that have improved over the last 6 months. But yeah, and so that's kind of like format wise. I wanted to get in all of your heads about, what does the format of Destiny look like in this cadence? And I'm excited to find out. There's a lot of questions, right? But I think my concern, as always with Destiny stuff like this, is time gating. How long am I going to have to wait? Am I going to be able to do an initial version of a thing and then have to wait 6 weeks before I can do the subsequent, the follow-up, the better version, or get the catalyst, or do whatever I need? I don't know. That's what I'm worried about, and I want to know what you folks are worried about as well. So please comment down below. Let me know what you think. And then the other thing, Echoes, Revenant, and Heresy. Like, what are these episodes going to be about? I feel like Echoes, people keep saying Vex. I like the idea of Echoes. I like the idea of kind of timey-wimey stuff, Reflections. I think this is definitely primed to be the epilogue to the Light and Darkness saga, Echoes itself. I don't necessarily know what that means, right? We've gotten some lore. About to get into the lore, kids, so buckle up. We've gotten some lore, through Veil Containment about the Vex. And kind of where did Chioma Essie end up, and what's the deal with Maya Sundaresh and Lakshmi as well, and that kind of tied back to the Vex. So I've been thinking that the Vex would be whatever happens first after the final shape, just because we've kind of known that they're waiting in the wings while the Traveler and the Witness fight it out, and they are more interested in how things are going to settle afterwards, and what they can do within the structure of the universe after this event has passed. So I think that's what that's going to be about. I think it could be about the, echoes of people's pasts, maybe closure for some characters. If characters end up dying, closures for the characters around them. Yeah, that's kind of like what I'm thinking. Revenant, I think, is definitely about Fickrell. I think it's definitely about Crow. I think it's definitely about the Scorn and where do they shake out in a world without the Witness, or where the Witness isn't necessarily like controlling them. But yeah, I think this is like, if Crow does not become the Hunter Vanguard in the final shape, I think that is something that would happen in episode Revenant. Because I think Crow feels an accountability for Fickrell and the Scorn as a whole, and the Fanatic and everything that he's doing, which he's been very quiet for a long time. So I'm kind of curious where Fickrell stands in the whole Witness debacle, because he certainly didn't want to be told how to live his life or what to do. And I think Crow overcoming that challenge sets him up to become the Hunter Vanguard. And that's what I think Revenant is going to be about. Like, to me, that's like the surest shot. For sure, that is what that season or that episode is about. And then Heresy, I think, obviously, Savathun's not going to die this season. I mean, she's currently dead. I think she will come back before the end of the season. Guaranteed, I don't think Xivu Arath is going to die. She might change, right? I hope so. I think that would be way more interesting than just like, all right, we killed the third one, And then there's the whole thing with Eris Morn, right? This beginning of this season has to be very concerned for the state of Eris. Not that I think she's going to die, but I think she might not see how she fits in the last city Earth traveler situation after this season. I think if she truly kind of ascends to a point of no return, then she can't stay and she has to leave. And I think that would mean she goes out into the cosmos to be Hive and to do something with the Hive, potentially try and, stoke the flames of change. And that feels like a setup for like the idea of heresy within the Hive. If Eris becomes this new third pillar that is going against all of the teachings the Hive have been given from the Witness and trickled down through the worms and whatnot, I think that is a plot line for heresy. Obviously, Savathun or Xivu also could be kind of the center of that. Certainly, Savathun certainly is a heretic in the eyes of kind of more traditionalistic Hive. So, but that's kind of the feeling that I'm getting. But yeah, that's where I'm feeling about episodes. I feel good. I don't know. We really don't know. I don't want to have to wait for things to happen. That sounds exhausting. Of like, oh, the exotic mission's here, and you can get the gun. That's great, but you can't get the catalyst for 6 weeks. Like, that doesn't sound super exciting to me. Especially like Act 2 stuff, right? I could see Act 1 coming out with a lot of things like you would expect when the new season launches. And then Act 2 not necessarily adding a lot to it, but adding enough that you have to come back. And then you kind of feeling frustrated by the time Act 3 rolls around. That is a realistic feeling that I could definitely see happening. And like one little thing that I want to know is like, if I level up to like season rank, episode rank, I don't know what it's going to be. Season rank like 192 in the first 6 weeks. Will I just unlock those additional 50 ranks when Act 2 and Act 3 or whatever come out? Or am I going to have to like regrind on top of that? I'm sure you won't, but again, much like many things when it comes to Destiny, I just would like some firm communication, and I think then we'll be set. We'll be in a great spot. But that's it. This ended up being very long. I'm so sorry. But yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling about episodes. Read the article that's coming in this to see how I'm feeling about the final shape. My concerns are just that, the stakes are really high and you can't mess this up. I don't necessarily think that they will, right? I think about Beyond Light being kind of a bummer of a campaign, and then Witch Queen coming out and being really great. So I feel like Lightfall being a low point does not mean inherently that the final shape will not be a high point. It just means it'll be a tougher hill to climb. So, but yeah, this weekend Mike and I are recording another H.E.L.M.to Tower. So, watch that video or listen to that on your podcast service of choice. And hopefully I will be back sooner than 3 months from now to talk more about Destiny in video form. If you like these, like below, leave a comment, subscribe, let me know what you think of episodes and where your theories are at. And I'll talk to you next time.